And hooray! I've made it to 8 o'clock. Oh yeah, 8 in the morning. Wow, as always, the clock says 8:01. It's annoying. I'm not sure if it's a minute fast or whether I'm just failing. Um, Man, so what to talk about now? 8 o'clock. 8 is a wondrous number. Actually, no. I think we could link this into just general chit chat about the origins of the universe. Somehow. I mean, look, 8, turn it aside. You get endless 8, i.e., infinity, so could somehow connect that to something. I honestly don't know. However, it's still a long way to go. It's kind of nice though, It's 8 o'clock and I'm a sleep deprived man who's kind of happy. It's a really odd sensation. Oh man, it's really nice though. It's hard to explain. But no, it's 8 o'clock and what's the average time people get up? I mean, that's school days, usually 6:30, 7 for me, but I don't know, because my sleeping patterns have been all over the place, which is quite odd. I have finished school, so which is better, but I mean, I think I'm thinking of, like, going back to the discussion about, I'm thinking of more detail on the idea of maturity versus age, because it's quite an interesting topic, isn't it? I mean, because in the end, what you are measuring is how many times has a guy gone round the sun. I mean, if you think about it, it is just a measurement of how many times has a guy gone round the sun. And I've gone round the sun 16 times. So, does that make me more mature than the guy who's gone round the sun 15 times? If you think of that. I mean, sure, I get the burden of more responsibility and my rights kind of are added to in some senses, and in other senses there's often this idea that when you get to a certain age you lose your childhood, and I'm just wondering, like, is that really the case? I mean, it's an interesting idea, isn't it, that you lose your so-called childhood, that you're not innocent anymore, you're not really a child, but I don't know, because to me it sounds like absolute rubbish, because you think of that, I mean, I've been around the sun 16 times, it doesn't mean doesn't mean I have to have matured, like, it in the span of time, I understand that people want you to mature, and I believe I've hopefully matured to a certain degree. I mean, I've matured in my speech, I've matured in my general intelligence. It's just the fact that I do have a few traits, Like I said earlier, I love cuddlies everywhere. The cuddlies gone, I can't be bothered. Ah, there's one, yeah. Yay. Hi. I like cats, don't I? Cats are awesome. I don't know, it's probably because I've never got a cat, because my uncle's allergic. It's probably something to do with that. I like cats a lot, but I don't know. In the end, it is just what you make of it, though, and I think it's quite interesting that there is a difference between, like, the whole idea of I've been around the sun or I've got more responsibility for certain things, and when you think about it, who in the end is more responsible? Because it's very true that age is not a measure of maturity, and it's kind of interesting about that, because we often consider it is, for example, like, it's in theatre, film, in the media, for example, like films and video games and stuff, you have age ratings, don't you? You have 18 plus or 16 plus or 15 plus or something like that, and you think about it, and then it kind of, like, there are some, like, the whole idea is that violent video games will corrupt your son or daughter, and make them go crazy or something. I don't know what parents argue about these things. I don't know. But the idea is that generally, violent video games will so coolly make you violent. And what interests me about that is it's not really the case, is it? I mean, when you think about it, because I can understand some people are susceptible. And ironically, while I'm complaining against the idea of age here, I am saying younger people. But on average, like, for example, there are older people who will revel in the violence and they'll buy the game for the violence. And for me, that's not great. Whilst, what, with something like, I don't know, with something like a less violent thing, then I find it boring because it hasn't got violence. And it's interesting to see those who are obsessed with it. Like, and I know it sounds a bit weird, but, like, is our so-called possible love of violence, because love of violence is, I'd say, usually in males around the age of 20-ish. I don't know, like, the violent video game, I mean, I know that violent video game markets really do sell mostly in the range of 17 to 20-year-olds, and it's interesting, because obviously there is the biological maturity as well. There, you know, you've grown biologically, but is the maturity does the maturity lead levels, or is it something more? I don't want to sound absolutely stupid or like weird, but something more primal, something more kind of built into us genetically. Like, it is an interesting concept that maybe it is a genetics thing, the kind of insatiable thirst for violence. Even in video games where it's virtual, there's still a love, because obviously you're detached from it. You're detached from the world and you have escapism, and your escapism may or may not include violence. And it's an interesting thought that maybe the violence could be something from, I don't know, because obviously we evolved from, not evolved, but we have come from dead of cavemen and obviously hunting, and maybe it could be something to do with hunting. Or is it just something even rawer than that? I mean, I don't know. I can't really commentate, and I yawned. So, that's an interesting point. You know, do you think violence is a carnal thing? Is it, you know, are violent video games needed? Are violent films needed? You know, or can you settle with a nice documentary where, I don't know, thousands of people maybe just log their lives in a day? I just thought I'd advertise something I'm trying to attempt to be part of. I don't know, I'm already losing favour saying I'm attempting to be part of it. I don't know how this thing works. Anyway, the point is that the whole topic of prime video games, I'm yawning. Yay. That's me yawning. Hope you enjoy my yawning voice. It's not great, is it? But it is an interesting idea that, you know, is violence built in us? Is it a prime instinct from hunting, or did we get it before that? And, I mean, there is the whole kill or be killed scenario, isn't it? Is it fight or flight? Yeah, fight or flight. And it's an interesting idea, you know, because you've got testosterone building up, and then you have adrenaline, which builds up to rapid levels, and then it either, you know, goes into the upper body muscle such for fight, or if you recognise that the person is possibly much better for something like this, then it will go into flight. And it's an interesting concept, you know, is human nature just built in biologically, or is it something that we can actually learn to control, something we can actually maybe change? I mean, I'm not talking Lamarckian evolution here, but something along those lines. And also, in mentioning evolution, it kind of goes into my philosophy topics from earlier. You know, I will just state that it's a theory of evolution. I have no problem with religious theories, okay? But it, I mean, like, is fight or flight something that's been built to us in Darwinian, it's or is it possibly even an inspiration? I mean, we're pretty sure that Lamarckian is wrong. Okay, that the Lamarckian theory is wrong, but is it? But is it an influence of the Lamarckian theory? It's very possible. Can we learn to control fight or flight to certain extents, or is it really something that nature's just built into us? And is it that our brains are actually just doing everything for us, that we don't actually have any real choice in life because, in fact, our brains are just programmed to do it? It's quite interesting, and it's an interesting topic, and I think it would be good for everyone to discuss. So, discuss that. Are we controlled by our brains, or do we actually have any real freedom?